almost anything that you are saying, as a seller is only going to be more powerful with an additional aspect of, voice of the customer included.
This is the Sales Bible Podcast, episode 360, Growing Sales with Video Testimonials, an interview with Sam Shepler.
Welcome to Sales Babble, the podcast that shares selling secrets for non-sellers. And now your host, Pat Helmers.
Hello, Sales Babblers. This is Pat Helmers. And one of the best ways to grow revenue is to put your loyal clients on the sales team. How do you do that? Testimonials. See, this is the thing. It takes a long time for a prospective client to trust you. But once they see people like them saying great things about you, that mitigates any kind of risk that they might take. Our guest today, Sam Shepler, does exactly that, but with video testimonials. It's no secret that video is the hot new thing. And we're not just talking TikTok. There's also videos on Instagram and Facebook and LinkedIn too. This technology is not going to be going away. And if you're not on the bandwagon right now, it's time for you to step up. But before we get to the interview, there's something I'd like to bring in. At Friday at noon on February 19th, I'm going to be giving a talk, a webinar through the Orange Squad, which I've talked about before. And the title of it is Tending Your Creative Garden, Groundbreaking Ideas That Actually Break Ground. It's a presentation on creativity in the context of gardening. This is something I've probably not talked about one bit on Sales Babble. So if you want to learn a little bit about me, I'm pulling back the curtain and you can hear all about the creative process. There might be a little selling in there too. I'll put links on how to register in the show notes. And one last thing, this episode is sponsored by Testimonial Hero. As sales professionals, we want to make sales as easy as possible. It's hard enough already. But the problem is, today's buyers are overwhelmed with information. They are quite literally drowning in a sea of content. But what do prospects actually want? What cuts through the noise? It's hearing from other people just like them in their own words. Today, more than ever, customer testimonials on video are the best way that revenue teams can cut through the noise and close deals faster. That's exactly what Testimonial Hero does. Testimonial Hero makes high-quality, fully remote video testimonials effortless, so B2B sales and marketing teams can cut through the noise and close deals faster. Why? Because customers want to hear from other customers, and trust builds revenue. Learn more at testimonialhero.com. So now, with no further ado, let's get to it. Welcome, Sam. Are you ready to babble?
Thanks, Pat. I am excited to be here and I'm ready to babble.
Hey, just today I was looking at Testimonial Hero. That's a company and you're the CEO, right?
That's correct. Yep. I'm the CEO, Testimonial Hero.
Yep. And it's a startup. And I think it started about 2-3 years ago, but a big part of it was last year, which was quite challenging. And I don't know about you, but 2021 looks challenging too. How have you been able to cope?
Yeah. So, it's, it was a challenge that really spurred us to actually launch a whole new product line that is now become 80% of our revenue. So, I think how we were able to cope in short is like, we were forced to adapt and, we basically, we were able to execute on that with our, which I'm sure we can get into. But I think ultimately it was scary, but good outcome at the moment.
Oh, so this was the classic startup pivot?
Exactly.
Now, have you always wanted to be an entrepreneur?
So I think no, I think, well, as a little kid, I wanted to be, a professional athlete. I think like many kids, but then I think after that, I wanted to be, filmmaker. So I actually got my degree in film, and somewhere along the line of college, I needed to, make some, extra money to, buy more pizza and beer or whatnot. And I realized I could actually convince, local businesses to pay me to make them, little marketing videos. So in early, in my college days, that was sort of my, I guess, my entrepreneurial start was just, making, kind of small business videos. And that kind of threw me in to the, started my journey on the, the larger, video marketing entrepreneurship space.
Why video? Why'd you pick that?
I think it's something about, for one, I think it was just always something that interested me. I think it's a, for me personally, it's a cool medium because there's so many different, kind of puzzle pieces, right? There's so many different, levels. There's the visual level, there's the auditory, level, there's the story structure level, and they all have to come together to kind of make magic. So I think just like that, just the all the different facets always fascinated me.
Was there some time when you were doing this when it finally just struck up on you? Video, this is it. This is it for me.
Yeah, I think there's a very specific time. It's funny. So I had a final project in college, and I procrastinated on it, and I stayed up all night, literally all night. I didn't sleep, working on it, and I was still in a good mood that next morning, and I had a blast. So that was when I knew. I was like, I think I can do this for a career.
I love it.
I was like, if I can do that, then I should keep pursuing this. Like, if I'm still in a good mood and I didn't sleep at all, and I should probably double down on this.
Yeah, think about how many people don't choose, vocations like that. Instead, they say something along the lines like, that looks like that might make a lot of money, or that's what people think I should do.
Yeah, it's for sure. I mean, I think that's a really interesting topic, and the way I always think of it is, for startups and entrepreneurship is it's always about combining, what your skill set with also what the market needs, right? Like ultimately, now I've started a company, that helps, B2B revenue teams close deals faster with video. Was that my childhood dream? Not necessarily. So I'm absolutely, following, the market, but I'm also keeping it true to my roots in video as well. So I think it's really like it's really both of those things, right? It's that overlapping Venn diagram of like, your skills and then what the market needs, right? I'm passionate about 80s, sword and sorcery B movies, maybe, but like that's not a huge market need, right? So like, so yeah, I think it's all about, understanding your skills within the context of the market as well.
That's a good segue because you and I have a common interest, talking about the Venn diagram here, is that we both believe in the power of the testimonial. Why do you feel that way?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, it's a couple things, well, first, practically speaking, I like to do things that, as a seller myself that, make my life easier. And I've just, found, video testimonials, work really well and make my job easier. Right. So, essentially, why they work. I think that they work for a couple different ways. One of them being written testimonials just don't quite cut it anymore, like they used to, right? They're still good. Don't get me wrong. But it's just, we live, now, well, first of all, more buyers than ever are millennials. I think it's something like 70 percent of buyers are going to be millennials in the next 2 years if it's not already. So it's like, well, you just got to reach people on the medium they want. Increasingly, that medium is video, right? So it's sort of just what buyers kind of expect now. In addition, we've as we're all sellers and we're all buyers as well. We know that a lot of testimonials, written testimonials, are simply kind of written by the marketing team and signed off on. And it's not always the case, but that happens a lot. So I think there's just a grain of salt for a written testimonial. But when you're a seller and you're using a video testimonial, the buyer knows like that's a real face, that's a real person. That's what they're actually saying. So it's just like this power and this emotion and this authenticity to it that it's just not the same with text.
I can see that, but let me push back on you a little bit here. Have you done any kind of studies to see that a video testimonial versus a written or a blog testimonial, that when it comes to closing a deal or growing revenue, that there's a difference between the two?
So I haven't personally done any studies, but I've definitely seen some studies that it's just, especially with the younger generation, it's just like the people want video. So actually, it's funny. I was just reading an article. Let me pull it up. So it's like basically, which one of the following content formats would be most important to you in researching a new product or service for your company? So 29%, of buyers said video. 19% said case study. 16% said white paper. But the point being, yeah, I think I haven't personally done any studies, but the studies for sure, if you just look up, video in marketing or video in sales, the studies are for sure out there when it comes to, why video.
I'm surprised you answered that way, because actually I'm looking at your website and it says, we help B2B revenue teams close deals 40% faster.
So actually there is a study done, and it was done on case studies. And it was, the study was that, even, written case studies that are industry specific and, persona specific. And I know this is a big thing for you too. In the work that you've done is like, you have to have things for every persona, right? You have to have a testimonial for each product, each service, each market niche, each, onboarding process.
Yep.
It's so key. So
that's right.
Yep. And so, yeah, the study that we're inferring that data from, that is based on actually just having a great case study. Industry specific, case studies, will help you close deals, 30 to 40% faster according to that study.
I see that. Yeah. So it begs the next question. What makes for a good testimonial? I have like a format in my head that I've used with people. What's the structure that you think makes for a great testimonial?
Yeah. So I think, it's interesting because, it's always the traditional, problem, challenge, solution, and result type scenario. But in my opinion, you also have to keep in mind, especially with video, because people can't skim. So, if you have a 2-minute video and you spend, 30 seconds setting up the problem, you're going to just lose so many people. Unfortunately, just, people's attention spans are they're not going to stick around. So, on video, when you can't sort of skim, there's not like pull quotes you can bold. We always start with a 15-second, value bomb that we call a hook. So, basically like 10 to 15 seconds, it's just like a quick like value bomb. Like, for example, if I was giving a testimonial for my experience on, the Sales Babble, maybe it would start out with like, Sales Babble is by far the most enjoyable podcast I've ever been on. Pat is the man. And then I'd introduce myself. Hi, I'm Sam Shepler, blah, blah, blah. I was looking for, and then you sort of restart the narrative from there. It's almost like when you see a movie trailer, it's usually there's usually like a big explosion in the first 10 seconds, and then they kind of rewind. So I think all of the basics apply. You absolutely need to set up the problem, and then, before you talk about, the problem or the challenge, but it's great to have a little teaser there.
I actually do that in my podcasts. I'll take a little piece of this and I'll stick this up on the front so that people go, oh, this Sam guy sounds kind of interesting.
Perfect example. And yeah, that's exactly right. And yes, the same, I think the best video testimonials kind of use that same, approach for sure.
That's called a value bomb.
Love
I've never heard that term.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. And then what do they say after the value bomb?
So typically, after that, we like to, have the person introduce themselves, because as we were just talking about, it's you want to establish, parity between, the buyer and, the person being featured, right? Like, people are going to trust, things that come from, people like them, right? So they need to know who that person is, what's their role, what are they focused on. So it might be just a short snippet, like, my name is, XYZ. They introduce themselves, and, this is my role, in my focus, just so it's like, oh, is this basically you're giving the buyer an opportunity to, quickly judge, like, is this someone like me? Is this someone that I'm interested in their perspective, because they, are relevant to my world as well.
Okay. Yep. So people can then identify with them. I got that.
Exactly. And then from there, it's, for sure, you need to set up, the challenge. What was the challenge, solution, results. There's a lot of, it also depends how long, how long that you want to make the video. And other things to include is always like, okay, like, well, what, assuming there's time, it's like, well, what ultimately drove their buying decision, right? Why did they ultimately, choose that product or service? But even if I was actually going to step back a bit, so we're talking like super traditional testimonials, like it's and that's actually a large part of what we do, but it's not necessarily like where I see the future of, voice of the customer going. And so let me just kind of, move up to the 10,000 foot level for a second. So the way, our core belief is that, the best way to communicate value is, through the voice of the customer. Video testimonials are obviously a very traditional way to do that, but what if you, as a seller, anytime you had, got an objection, you had just had a short 60-second objection crusher video featuring a customer. What if you had, every time you got what if your marketing team, and because this is the hard part for us sellers as well, is because, like, ultimately, like, we're using these videos, but like only marketing is usually like making them, right, or buying them, right? But the point being is, like, almost anything that you are saying, as a seller, is only going to be more powerful, with an additional, aspect of, voice of the customer included. So then, for us, a part of our process is like, we just map the buyer journey, for our clients, and we understand, what are the objections, at this stage, and can we actually address those with with the voice of the customer.
Right. And this is something people have been grasping for a long, long time. What's the best way to get the voice of the customer out to prospective clients and have them actually believe you?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I remember working on this 25 years ago.
Yeah, and thankfully it's easier than
we couldn't
all
do
the
it
tools that we have now. It's easier,
yes.
So that's good.
Yeah. Now, you said something interesting at the top. You said that you guys pivoted from what to what? Well, I know from what to Testimonial Hero, What was
Yeah.
that about?
Yeah. So great question. So we originally were, focused on much more kind of on-site, model. So like the way that our company works, we are not a pure, software, product. We are a tech-enabled service. So we have, real people, and then a software layer that, helps us, especially on internally, to, increase our efficiency, right? So kind of like Uber is a good example how, like, real people are ultimately driving the cars, but there's a huge software infrastructure behind the scenes, and of course there's a user facing software. We don't have the user facing software at the moment. It's all behind the scenes for us. So our old business model, which we're not pivoting away from, it was more of just a whole new expansion. We're still doing it, just obviously less now at the moment. We have a network of videographers all over the world, because our customers have customers all over the world, right? It's just not practical anymore to fly a single videographer all across the country, all across the world. So we were doing these in-person shoots, with our global network. They send the footage back to our, editing team, and we edit the footage, make sure, no matter if your shoot was in, Austin or in London, it's all going to look the same. It's all going to have that consistent look and feel. Well, the pandemic happens, and, we're not doing any, in-person shoots anymore. So the pivot was that, to answer your question, the pivot was to remote. So we had to figure out a way to, produce these, customer stories on video with a really high quality bar, fully remotely. And so that was ultimately, the pivot that we made, because, ultimately, if you need a really rough and ready version, there's ways to do that for sure. But that's not always going to have the, impact that, something that, is really, well branded and well edited, is going to have, as it pertains to closing a deal. So that was the crux of our pivot, was just figuring out how we could do it in a fully remote world environment.
How did you know that this pivot made sense and that you were going to make it?
Well, it's a great question. I mean, I think, we didn't, to be honest, like, but it seemed like the best shot. It was stressful, turbulent times for sure. I mean, just like so many other companies, right?
So many other companies. Yeah. You're not the only one.
Yes, absolutely. And honestly, like we were very fortunate, certain, sectors and business models, travel, entertainment, obviously got hit much harder. But I think, the way that I thought of it as an entrepreneur is, basically, it wasn't the only pivot that it wasn't the only area that we explored. We were exploring, 2 or 3 other, bets basically. And this one quickly proved to take off. So we just doubled down on that. But, the way that we were thinking about it, on a kind of a, risk adjusted basis, it was like, okay, let's quickly test out, 2 or 3, new, pandemic viable, models. And then, as soon as we have enough data, we'll double down on the one that is working the best.
Yeah, it makes sense. That makes sense. It's often interesting how constraints makes for creativity. The constraint of lack of travel, right?
Yes. It's like that saying, like, necessity is the mother of invention. I guess there's something to that, right?
Yeah. That's it exactly. So if you're giving our listeners a piece of advice they could take action on, what would that be?
Yeah, I think, it's interesting. I think, well, first I'll give some like general like sales stuff, I think, because I know, we're a lot of salespeople are listening, and then I'll kind of give some sales stuff in the context of voice of the customer. So, I mean, my biggest, things that I've learned in sales, over, starting two companies, sold my last company. This is my second company. The biggest thing, I've learned is, just to ask good questions and then shut up, like, yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh
And
yeah.
that's for me, like as a seller, that's when sales, became like much easier. When I realized that, I no one's going to be convinced. I'm not going to convince anyone, by like trying to convince them, and it just becomes ineffective and it just feels awkward, right? But like just asking the right question is just it demonstrates your expertise so more effectively than trying to demonstrate your expertise, right? It's like the classy, effective way that's just a win for everyone, right? And then my second tip would just be, or thing that I wish I would have done sooner for both myself and my sales team, is I have a team of account executives, a small team. We're a 10-person company, two account executives at the moment, but I would have had them record their calls sooner. And, basically I think, it's like watching talk time. Like, are there, if you're recording your calls, like, are you speaking less than the buyer, right? I think, that's like, that should always be the case. So depending on your sales motion, obviously some demos require, you to demo and really, but in general speaking, like when I look at my account executives, I look at like, their talk time, and like, I know it's a great call if they talked less than, if they talked like 40, to 45% of the time, and the other person talked, 60% of the time or whatever, I know it's a great call.
I totally agree with you on that one. I was working with a client last year, and that's what we did. It's a very powerful tool.
It really is. And it also it makes sales easier. It makes it, people appreciate it. It's easier and better for everyone. The other, I guess the other kind of specific to my, personal interest in Testimonial Hero, actionable tip I would give is, it's a couple of things. I would say one, as a seller, don't be afraid to ask marketing, for, what you need, I mean, like, and also like, it's possible you might not even like, unfortunately, marketing in sales is often very siloed. And like, as a salesperson, you might not even be aware of some of the assets that you have available to you. It's just because marketing hasn't done a good job communicating that. Oh, you like, so if you're working a deal and it's a company in, X industry or in X situation, ask them, hey, I'm working on this deal. Do we have a case study for that? Do we have a video testimonial for that? You might already have something for that. And like, why work, why make it hard when you can leverage that, social proof, to make things easier. And if they don't have it, and this is an industry and a persona that you're selling into all the time, I would ask marketing, can we get this, right? Like, the purpose of marketing, especially in B2B, is, in my opinion, just is simple. It's make sales easier. So like, don't be afraid to, ask for the content you need to just make your life way easier.
It never hurts to ask.
Exactly. You don't get what you don't ask for, right?
Nope. So people wanted to connect with you, and if they wanted to learn more about Testimonial Hero, where would they go?
Absolutely. So for me, I'm on LinkedIn, Sam Shepler. I'm sure, we can include a link in the show notes, but it's just Sam Shepler, Shepler is how you spell my name. And Testimonial Hero, if you just, Google Testimonial Hero or go to testimonialhero.com.
Awesome. Is there anything you wanted to give away, Sam?
Yeah, so we do have a PDF of the 15 best, video testimonial questions on our site. If people are interested in that, they can download that. It is gated at the moment, but if you want me to send it to you, just email me at sam@testimonialhero.com, and I'm happy to just shoot it over to anyone as well.
Sweet, awesome. Sam, this has been a ton of fun. I really appreciate you babbling here on Sales Babble.
Yeah, it's been a blast, Pat, and I guess my only parting thoughts would be, ask good questions, and as much as you can, let the customer, sell for you, right? You utilize that voice of the customer. Just really only makes the sales process easier.
Awesome. Hey, thanks.
My pleasure.
To connect with Sam or to learn more about Testimonial Hero, you can find links to him and his company at www.salesbabble.com. Also on the show notes, there are going to be links to the upcoming webinar that I have on Friday, Tending Your Creative Garden. I would love to see you there. Sign up, register. It's going to be a creatively good time. If you have any questions about this episode or any other episode, don't hesitate to reach out. Once you're on the website, click on the Babble Me button. I'd be more than happy to answer any questions that you might have or take any advice that you have on the direction you'd like to see Sales Babble go. Do you have anybody in mind that you think might be a great Sales Babble guest? Reach out and tell me. I would love to hear it. That's all I got for this week, folks. Until next Tuesday, take care and have a highly successful and a profitable selling day.
Thank you for listening to the Sales Babble podcast. Find us at www.salesbabble.com.
This is a production of Habanero Media.